There are so many of you guys that are missing out on quite a lot of merit during the Mightiest Empire event, during any form of PvP, and you're not even realizing it. And in this video, what I want to do is deep dive into what I do as not even the biggest player to make sure that I maximize how much merit I can get, and then hopefully help you guys achieve more merit, and that's without trying hard, that's without cheesing too much. Easily scoring over 700 million points here. There are quite a lot of bigger players that are struggling. Maybe they're not getting as many merit or they're not getting as many points. So that's what we're going to get into this video. Make sure that by the time that you finish watching, you will definitely be clearing 1.5, 2 million merit each Mightiest Empire with ease. Okay? I think the biggest thing that we would need to definitely look at is the commanders that you're using. How many of them, and are they the right ones? Now, look at me. I'm not I want to emphasize this, I'm not the biggest player. I've got 30 million points. I literally use one lineup. Everything goes into that one lineup. Lubu, of course. The GOAT Lubu, of course, and literally this is all I use. So it's not the case of me spamming the open field with multiple marches. I'm literally just using that one march to easily get over 1 million merit each time. And what I see quite a lot of is slightly bigger plays in terms of points, so like the 40 million, 45 million, 50 million. And I see them fielding 4, 5 different marches. And the marches never stack up that well. Usually, from what I've seen so far, is some of their marches are maybe running around 3 stars. They're not 5 stars at all, and it's not looking good. So what you've done is you've spread all your resources trying to get as many commanders as possible, and that's not going to work in the long run. It just doesn't work in this sort of game if you cannot upkeep them, if you cannot get them to the full 5-star and kit them out. If you have enough to maybe run 2 marches, it doesn't make sense in you running 5 different marches. Let me give you a clear example. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. So when we see this guy's Lubu march, really strong. He's got the Lubu at 5 stars. He's got his Attila at 5 stars. Guan Yu a bit lower on the 3, that is still fine. But then when we look at a few of his other marches, let's say for example the Warrior Pikeman, not as much love and investment at all. It's running at 4 stars rather than the full 5. Leonidas is only 1. He's still using Barbarossa. Now, at this stage, you'll probably want to switch that to Boudica. He's a King Arthur player, so I would actually expect more. He's trying to use more than his resources allow. What I would suggest is, if you've got enough to get 1 march to full 5 stars, just do the 1 march. If you've got enough to do 2 to full 5 stars, do that. Moving on from there. Now, once you've focused on how many marches you can run, another thing that's important, we've got the full level 80 on all of the commanders, and that's ideally what you want. 60 is also good. Having level 60 is perfect because then you still have the 3 gems. But me, because I'm just using this one march, I have the capability to push that to level 80. A massive one that people don't take into consideration when they're running so many different marches is that you might not have enough red stars to go on all of your skills. Now, that is so important, people need to stop sleeping on it. Countless times I see people, they have no stars at all. But the important skills, so the Warrior Hymn, the critical insight, the damage skills on Lubu, they're at least 4 out of 5 stars, if not the full 5 stars. And that's so important because if your skills aren't that high stars, you're not going to be doing as much damage. The reason why you want them at 4 to 5 stars is that you need the most amount of damage. If you're using a DPS build like the Lubu, you need Lubu to actually be doing damage, and you're not going to be getting that much damage if it's only 1 red star rather than having the full 5 or at least 4 of them. You know what I mean? So you want to make sure that at least with the marches that you are running, you can get those important damage skills to at least 4 out of 5 red stars. If their support skills like critical insight, it's at least 4 out of 5 stars, because when it does proc, you want to get the most out of it to then boost your performance of the Lubu, making sure that the maximum amount of critical strike rate is there, so then you can maximize on the damage, do as much damage, get more merits. Okay, now another really big thing is your rings. We all know rings are a grind. Rings are a massive grind. And with rings being such a big grind, what favor are you doing to yourself by using way too many? Even me, I've made the mistake of having way too many rings. If we take a look at my ring. I've got 8 rings, okay? And even for me, I feel like that was way too much. I made mistakes with my rings. These 2 I definitely didn't need. I just didn't need to use them, and that's just resources wasted on getting them both to level 10 when I might be able to push this ring to level 30. Pushing that ring to level 30 is going to be much more beneficial than me having these 2 rings at level 10 just sitting there collecting dust. Once you get to the point where you're trying to field 3, 4 marches, let's keep it simple. Let's look at 3 marches. That is 9 rings. That's 9 separate rings that you need. And you're going to want them at a good level. You're not going to be wanting to run all your rings at only level 10. You want to be pushing the level 20, level 30. And the more marches that you are using, the more you're going to have to divvy out those resources. In turn, that's going to mean that commander that gets that ring might not have it at an optimal level. When you're just using too many different marches, it's not going to work in your favor. You're not going to help yourself by using too many different marches. All right, cool. So now let's take a look at the gear. So with the gear, you want to push that all to level 80. But on top of that, once they're like pushed to level 80 or at least level 60 for the 3 gems, you need gems. You don't want to be running around at this stage. If you are a bigger player, you don't want to be running around with full purple gems. You're not going to get the same benefit as if it's all gold or if it's all red. And ideally, if you are a bigger player, that's what you ideally want to be pushing for, the full red gems on your march. And by you then having to field 3 or 4 or 5 different marches, think about how many more gems that you're going to need spread out across all of those commanders. Each commander needing how many? Was it 12 gems? And then saying to yourself, all right, cool, I need all of them to at least be gold. If we half that from 5 marches down to 2, they're all using purple. Think about now all those commanders can upgrade them to gold because there's less to focus on. You don't want to be using more commanders than you need than using weaker gems. And in turn, it does have a knock-on effect. And I think people argue that, oh, I have more marches, there's more chances for the PvP. If you've got more marches, like me personally, I'm not sure about other players, but me as a 30 million power player, I'm gunning for the people at 40 mil, 45 mil that are running 4 marches because I know that you spread your resources out. I know that my Lubu with the area of effect is going to do a lot of damage to all your troops. If anything, I really wish I had the screenshots, but I've had fights against the players that are 40 mil, 45 mil. They're running 4 to 5 marches. They're not all 5 stars. They're not all level 80 gear. They're not all gold gems. And then I'm winning the trades positively across 3 of their commanders. I might send 3 of their commanders home. Yes, you get that amount of merit from me, however much that might be. It might be 10,000 merit. But me sending home your 3 weaker marches, that's 30,000 for me. So yes, you might have sent me home in the end, but in that time taken to get me home, I've already made a positive trade in terms of the merit. And I think people are forgetting about that and they're not realizing that using too many marches, you're making each march that much weaker, meaning that you're going to trade negatively in the long run. Very lastly, though, would definitely be your tech. Now, I'm not going to dive into the mercenary stuff yet. I think we need to wait, really let it settle into the game, have a Mightiest Empire with this mercenary tech to really get a gist of how strong things are, how weak things are, where the meta will shift to. So in the meantime, I'm still going to look at pre-mercenary tech and everything. But the big thing here is, when you're a bigger player, you need to make sure that you've got these. You need to make sure that you've got these. These are going to be a massive boost to you in your PvP performance. Not even just that, but I think going back and making sure that you've got your stuff to at least 5 out of 5. I'm a cavalry main. I use my Lubu, so you can see I've got this to 4 out of 5. I've got this to 4 out of 5. Probably will push it to 5 out of 5. Up to senior cavalry, I've got the attack at 5 out of 5. I've got all the previous tech to 5 out of 5, because those little increments, those extra 4%, those extra 6% here and there, they're going to stack up over time. It's just going to correlate to your march having better performances. You're going to have better bonuses, allowing you to then go and do better in your PvP, go and score more merit. So if you take one thing away from this video, if you can only take one thing, maybe double check how many marches you're using, if there's too many marches that you're using, and just condense it down to maybe your best 1 or 2. Ideally, maybe 2. I think 2 could be a good spot. You could have 1 for rallies, 1 for open field. That could be a perfect spot, but not overextending yourself in terms of resources, because the last thing you want to do is being 40 mil, 45 mil, 50 mil, and then getting sent home by a smaller player just because they have condensed themselves into that one march that is then able to supersede the 3 or 4 marches that you spread all your resources across, meaning that you're losing trades, you're not having positive impact across your Mightiest Empire because you're feeding more points than you're gaining. Condense it down and you'll definitely see a skyrocket in terms of how much merit and the positive trades and how much Mightiest Empire points that you do receive